Hello, I'm Nicole Anderson, and welcome to our Equity Roundtable discussion. I am so thrilled to be joined by our Equity Committee representatives, Edgar Lampkin, Bianchi, and Sonja Lowery, and we are here talking about all things equity. So as we prepare for release of the first set of data that's provided through our LCFF evaluation rubrics, also going to be known as the data dashboard, share with me how you plan on closing the various educational gaps, in particular the achievement gap, the opportunity gap, the access gaps, in particular for our historically underserved students within our educational system.
One of the approaches that we're looking at taking is to have a way that teachers are doing the work for it to be consistent. And in order for it to be consistent, there has to be a clear protocol and process that is being followed. A process and a protocol that can be a continuous cycle of improvement, as well as a way that teachers are intentionally collaborating and working together to develop the curriculum, the assessments, the identifying what are those strategies, high leverage strategies that will give them the biggest bang for their buck, and making sure that they're looking at every student and where that student is. And so what we're doing, one of those strategies, TK12 that we're implementing, is achievement data teams. And so I would say that's the foundation of the work that we're trying to do.
And in our district, we're really focusing, we also focus on, we call them professional learning communities, but data teams, and making sure that every leader at every school is part of that process, not just expecting it to be done. And we're focusing on our language learners in our district to really, because if we are bringing them along, we're bringing the rest of the kids along and the best practices. And the implementing the curriculum with fidelity, as you mentioned, but also really paying attention to the data along the way, giving interim assessments that are that mirror the CASP, so that it's not a surprise, and so that we can inform our instruction along the way, and teasing out the different populations. Soon we'll be able to pull out the homeless and the foster kids too, and check and see how they're doing, specifically with that data dashboard. It's not available yet. We also are implementing AVID, Achievement via Individual Determination, not just at the secondary level, but we are going down to elementary. Currently we have 5 elementary schools in our district implementing AVID. And what that looks like is AVID school-wide at the elementary level, and then our goal as a district is to get to where we have AVID school-wide at the secondary level, and then some of the kids also have an AVID elective, like the traditional AVID. So that's another way that we're working on that.
Can you show a bit about AVID, why AVID, and what it is?
So it's actually, there's data that shows that it's one of the best ways. It's very effective in making sure that our traditionally underachieving students are going to achieve and go to college. That's the main thing, is that they're going to end up going to college. It's about getting kids ready for college, but more than that, thinking from an elementary level, it's about teaching the kids right from kindergarten that how to take notes, good study habits. At the secondary level, I actually implemented AVID at a middle school. What I saw was that at the AVID class, it provides that support structure. It's an AVID family at that secondary level. And I've heard time after time after time from kids that are in college that they wouldn't have made it through some of their life hurdles and made it into college if it weren't for their AVID family. So that's one of the strategies. We have a few strategies. Another is making sure that learning's relevant for our kids. Inquiry-based learning, project-based learning, not just teaching the kids how to do school well, which AVID is really good at that, but also making it so that school's good for kids and a place for them to be engaged, not just in their learning, but also in their civic duties and being part of a bigger community and feeling like they belong. So really having our eye on the curriculum ball and the data teams, but also really thinking about the whole kid as well.
You know, when I think about our historically underserved kids, it reminds me of the notion that, you know, any system that we live and thrive in is designed to produce the results that it gets. And so, you know, over time, our traditionally underserved students, we look at them as, you know, underperforming, right? But we know that that's the incorrect lens, right? We need to call it as them being underserved. And so that's why I appreciate the question so much. I was happy to hear you share, you know, that you guys are focusing on continuous improvement. We have a system in place as well that's similar. And then with regard to PLCs, we've implemented those across all of our campuses. But when I think about even those kinds of implementation, you know, is it with fidelity, right? You know, how effective are those teams in using the continuous improvement model? You know, when those data sets come out, I would challenge all of us, and I'm sure that you may agree with me that we probably already know what the data says, right? We know which groups are being left behind, right? We know which groups we're going to look at to say that they are still being underserved. I think most recently in our district, we, when that data does come out, we have a little bit of a different approach in that we've assembled something called a strategic planning team with some equity leaders across the district that contains various stakeholder groups, parents, teachers, principals, central office folks. The only group we're missing right now is students. We have some plans over the next few months to figure out how to bring those folks in. But we've been assembled together to produce something called a strategic equity plan. And in this plan, really what we're hoping to lay out is, I guess we could call it a plan of attack, but how do we, you know, focus on promoting equitable practices and policies to close those persistent gaps, you know, that the question speaks of. And I would say that, you know, in that first year, we're really looking to invest heavily in professional learning so that people across the district can really have an opportunity to invest in that inside-outside approach, right? So that we can challenge our belief systems, you know, try to deepen our belief systems, because that's a lot of what it takes to do the work. You know, some of the programs that we already have in place have produced the results that we already have, right? Which is the reason why I think we're also heavily invested in the work. But what do we do differently? How do we create systemic change? I think those are some of those essential questions going into building the plan. And so it isn't completely written yet, but I'm super excited about what could happen as a result of it.
I want to thank all of our panelists and thank you for joining us at our Equity Roundtable discussion. We invite you to join us again here at ACSA.org for our next equity discussion, where we tackle the various equity issues around our state.